I'm going to be in New York City for this Anarchy in the NYC event, and besides the fact that I'm going to be speaking alongside some awesome people who I really personally look up to, I'm excited to bring this message, which I think is really, it's a new thing that me and John here both, when we met each other, we recognized that we seem to have similar interests both in voluntarism and anarchy and the ideas of liberty, but also in a spiritual path, which to some degree there seems to be a larger voice of that represents this atheist, purely rational, scientific, materialistic worldview that doesn't see any relevance or need for a spiritual path. And so I'm excited to bring that because I think that there is a voice, that there is an audience for this, and we've been finding that more and more. I'm sure you do as well, John, that there are people who resonate with this message. And so we're just working on looking for correlations and finding the synthesis on how anarchy and self-rule and a direct connection with nature they go hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the Eastern philosophers I got into real early on when I was studying that kind of stuff was Osho. And in one of his books called The Book of Understanding, he talked about how what is really needed, like on this planet generally, is basically a merger of the economic and somewhat rational capabilities that the West has been able to accomplish, and then the level of spirituality that the East, the Far East, and that area of the world has been able to accomplish. And I think that that is kind of like a macrocosm of what me and you were talking about, of bringing these issues along with the spiritual end of things, the economic stuff, and then the general freedom and how that ties back to spirituality. And I think that it's important that we have a calm, decent discussion about what lies beyond our five senses without having everybody freak all out on each other. And even people who come from the rational perspective, get really, really heated about others' ideas about what lies beyond the five senses. And I don't really think it's that big of a deal. Of course, when, a 5,000-year-old book tells you to kill people on the other end of the world, that's not a good thing. But that's another one of those false dichotomies that we were talking about earlier. Just because these religious, so-called, technically political organizations have controlled how people look at spirituality and look at the world beyond the five senses and answer those questions beyond the five senses, that means that there is nothing beyond the five senses. That's the conclusion that a lot of people have come to, and I think that's a giant leap. And I think that the answer to this question is that we don't really know what lies beyond the five senses, but we are all entitled to have our own ideas about that. And if you pursue a certain path of philosophy and meditation and maybe psychedelics or something like that, I think that most people will come to realize that there's a lot more going on in this reality than we realize. And there is something that lies beyond the five senses. And, even if there isn't, and we can still talk about that and work through our ideas without everybody getting so angry. I really think that we need to remove all the hostility from our conversations about what lies beyond the five senses. And I think that it's worthwhile to talk about what lies beyond the five senses. I think that that's how we discover more about why we're here and what's going on. And even a lot of legitimate scientific discoveries have been found that way. So sorry to rant there.
No, man, I agree with you 100% that we have to remove the hostility when looking at beyond our five senses. That, you know, whether, because I know some people, they hear shamanism and they hear this interest and there's like, oh, that's just a bunch of hippies taking shrooms and thinking that you know, something's going on, and there's a purely rational mind that says you're having a chemical reaction, this and that. Well, you know, to sort of define shamanism in brief parameters, you know, shamanism includes having a relationship with nature, recognizing plants, animals, stones, everything around you as a gift, as a teacher, as a companion. And also in some instances around the world, shamans would induce trance-like states through the use of hallucinogenic plants, or by meditation, or by drumming, repetitive drumming. It's all about the repetition. And so sometimes there does include a trance state that, to me, it's like a direct communication between you and whatever this reality is. You know, if you think this is a purely materialistic world with, you know, a universe that has clearly defined parameters, even within there, you can let go of all your inhibitions and truly connect with nature and what you believe, and from my experience, come closer to knowing yourself. And the more you know yourself, the closer you are to knowing what it is that makes you free, what it is that makes you a human. And I believe that's also a step in the right direction as far as freeing people from the control state. And you know, when I think about this, is statism and anarchy go together like religion and spirituality go together. Religion is this control that, you know, tries to define what spirituality and what your connection to can be to yourself, to your spirit, to your essence, and to know that yourself, the same way that the state tries to dictate the rest of your life. We've only got a couple minutes here, but I wanted to let you.
Wow, dude, that was awesome. That's really articulate, man. I appreciate that perspective.
Well, I appreciate that. We only got a couple more minutes here, but I wanted to give you a chance to elaborate on something you said off air that as regarding maybe some negative aspects, speaking in dualistic terms, and negative aspects of shamanism.
Yeah, not necessarily. Well, just the term shamanism can be applied to a bunch of different things. The term shamanism can be applied to a lot of the hippies that me and you know about, who don't want to care about important issues. They just want to talk about meditation all day and stuff like that, and they just want to lock themselves out. That kind of, I mean, I hate to say New Age because I'm down with some of that New Age stuff too, you know what I mean? But you know what I'm talking about, the don't be negative kind of approach. And then there is the ancient Indians who used to have blood sacrifices, and that was shamanism too. And that was the world's first religion, which became the cult religions that we know, where the priest or shaman would hide the information from the rest of the tribe. And I think that it is definitely important to acknowledge that unfortunate circumstance of history and separate ourselves from that kind of what I would call dark shamanism.
I agree with you. That's all the time we got for today, unfortunately, but I'm going to have you back in about 2 weeks and we'll go further into this. And look for more essays coming from both me and John. You can find on his website and on my website as we progress towards putting this into a book and hopefully bringing the ideas of shamanism, both dark and light, towards the ideas of anarchy and freedom. I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.
If you can hear this, you are the resistance.